did you lie about moving the head office of Brookfield? Are you friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, or is she just an acquaintance?
Hey everybody, the first time I met Mark Carney was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. It was almost exactly a year ago at their January 2025 meeting. My colleague Avi Yamini had actually scrummed him 1 or 2 years in advance of that, so that he knew Rebel News. Even if he wasn't following Rebel News online, he had interacted with Avi before. So I saw Avi, who's from Australia, banter with Mark Carney, and I sort of moved in on it because I thought, you know what, I've got some Canadian questions for him. And I asked him a few questions about Canada, including about LNG, liquefied natural gas, if I recall. But I specifically talked to him about press freedom because just days earlier, Chrystia Freeland had her bodyguard arrest our friend David Menzies. Anyways, here's what Mark Carney said to me about 13 and a half months ago in Davos, Switzerland. Take a look.
If this was, Canada, you could have him arrested.
Did you see that? Your rival, Chrystia Freeland, had one of our reporters arrested.
I don't think she did. I think
she didn't say a word against it.
On the incident, as you guys know very well, Canada is a rule of law country. Canada is a democracy. Operational decisions about law enforcement are taken by the police of jurisdiction. Quite appropriately, political elected officials have no role in the taking of those decisions, and that's why I don't have any further comment.
It was the wrong thing. It was absolutely the wrong thing.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Look, freedom of the press. I've been a public figure in Canada, been a public figure in the UK. I know you got to answer tough questions, and you guys, you ask tough questions, and that's fair.
Well, I want to thank you for saying that, because I have to say, Chrystia Freeland has not yet said anything in the vein that you have. She's been happy to let the cops do her work for her, and if she disagrees with the cops, she hasn't said so.
Well, I've said what I said. So, but look, the questions you were asking earlier about energy, and I'm going to have to.
All right, well, thanks for your time. I really appreciate.
And I appreciate keeping.
Mark, thanks.
Come on.
Well, that came across as positively friendly. And did you hear his point there about how we were asking good but tough but fair questions, or whatever he phrased it? It's true. Well, that was when he really had no political skin in the game in Canada. He was back then working for the United Nations, and he really didn't care what we had to say to him or about him. Now he's running for the leadership of the Liberal Party, and if he wins, he'll immediately be selected, appointed to be the head of the Liberal Party in the House of Commons, and surely he'll cook a deal up with Jagmeet Singh and become Prime Minister thereby. So you have a guy going from absolute man on the street, ordinary person, to Prime Minister without winning a single Canadian election. It's astonishing. But you'd think such a man would permit himself to be interrogated by journalists just in the public interest. If you thought so, you would be wrong. And bizarrely, he has the apparatus of the state working for him already. Here's when David Menzies attempted to go to a Mark Carney event in the Greater Toronto area last week, and the RCMP were providing him Secret Service-style protection. Take a look.
Carney, for some reason, has the RCMP in his personal protection. Last I checked, he wasn't the Prime Minister yet. He's not even the Liberal leader yet. What's going on?
I don't know. That's one of the questions I'd like to know. Because he's still a private citizen, and he's not entitled to this type of protection. In fact, there's a gentleman there at the door. He's on Justin's detail quite often. And there's another one that's been on Justin's detail as well.
Surely not Uncle Fester.
No.
Why does Mark Carney have Secret Service-style RCMP protection? He's a private citizen. He hasn't won anything yet. He's not an MP in any way. Since when did he just have that arranged for him? It's happening in Calgary, too. Yesterday, Mark Carney was at an event in Calgary, and some journalists were invited. Others showed up. None were allowed in, including the ones who were invited. And again, the RCMP and local police were there. One of the journalists who attended was our own Angelica Toy. And here's the question she put to Mark Carney.
Mark Carney, why did you lie about moving the head office of Brookfield? Are you friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, or is she just an acquaintance?
Those are fair questions. Why did you lie about moving your corporate headquarters from Toronto to New York? And the second one is a very interesting one. His friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell. If you don't know who that is the right-hand woman to the late Jeffrey Epstein. She was the procurer of child prostitutes who enslaved and exploited young girls for Jeffrey Epstein and his circles. You would think it's astonishing that anyone would truck with them, but it is astonishing, but it certainly hasn't stopped Bill Gates, who met with Epstein dozens of times, so many times that his wife divorced him over that. Remember that? Here's Melinda Gates explaining that.
You know, it was also widely reported that Bill had a friendship or business or some kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein.
It's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him.
Melinda admits she met Epstein and doesn't mince words about her first impression.
I wanted to see who this man was, and I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It was awful.
Well, part of the reason I think that Mark Carney is not engaging with independent journalists, or frankly, many Canadian journalists at all, the reason that he and other liberals are preferring American New York late-night talk show hosts is that they will not ask difficult questions, such as the ones you just saw put. Joining us now is our reporter who was on the scene last night, Angelica Toy. Angelica, thanks for taking the time with us today. It looks like you were not allowed to get any closer than you did there. Tell me how police or others pushed back journalists like yourself.
Correct. So initially I went into the event, just like the other media, and I would ask the woman that was there that was kind of working with all of us, and she said that she would see if I could get approved. She took my name down and then went to the back. And then when she came back, I had been already talking with Western Standard that was also there inside, and we ended up both getting removed. And crazy enough, the Western Standard actually had a letter to get pre-registered, but their excuse was that we both weren't registered, so they booted us both.
So what did they say? You said their excuse was you weren't registered, but you were there to register. Registering really just means going through some formality. You were there, you were saying, I'm here to register. Looks like Western Standard had done so in advance. Was there any substantive reason other than the technical loophole that you weren't registered? Did they object in some way? Did they say there was a problem of some sort?
They just said that we weren't pre-registered, so that was their excuse. Afterwards, though, I did stick around and I went to the back of the building where all of Mark Carney's RCMP security detail vehicles were. And I stuck around for a while in my car, and they didn't seem to bug me at all. They kept walking by. At one point, I actually sat down behind the building and just hung around there on this bench, and one of the security officers actually came up and said hello to me. Nothing beyond that. And then later I get back in my car, and all of a sudden I see police officers making their way towards the vehicle. And right before that, though, right before the police got to my vehicle, I saw this white car pull in, and I looked through the window. I'm like, hey, I recognize that guy. And it was Mark Miller. And so I waited till he got out of his vehicle, and I hopped out of mine, and then I asked him the question. And then immediately right after that, that's when the police came around the corner and said that if I hadn't left the property, that they were going to trespass me.
Now, Mark Miller has a different legal status, I suppose, in that he is an elected member of parliament and a member of cabinet. If I'm not mistaken, he's still in cabinet. He's the immigration minister. So, I mean, it's absurd to me that Mark Carney won't ask any questions. He's about to become PM, but Mark Miller is an MP and a cabinet minister. This is a public event, and police were shooing you away from even asking him questions, and they came up to your car. Let's play a clip of that with Mark Miller.
Hi, sir. Just a quick question. Do you think it's worth harming Canadian farmers and all of that at the expense of net zero? Do you think it's worth harming farmers and all of that, all the industries, small businesses at the cost of net zero? Hi, no, Dad, I got this. Hi.
My name is Consul Anna Pinkaska. I'm a
Angelica, nice to meet you.
So from what we understand is security asked you guys to leave?
Yes, we're just trying to figure things out. I have my parents with me, so we're just, I just got back in the car and then I saw somebody that I wanted to ask a question to, which I did, but if you guys want us to leave, we can leave now. Are we going to get trespassed if we don't leave?
Well, I think that's what it will come to, yeah.
Okay, in that case, we will completely comply with that, and I appreciate you guys coming over and talking to us, and
of course.
I like your sunglasses.
Thank you.
You know, there's something that I find repulsive about police being sickly sweet as they tell you something atrocious. We saw some of that during the pandemic as well. Police being conscripted to run political errands, to say absurd things. The police saying, if you don't leave here, you will be arrested at a public event with public personalities in the public interest. I accept that the building may have been private property, but there's something astonishing about police running those errands to protect politicians from any scrutiny, don't you think?
Yes, correct. That's the thing. It's we should be able to question those serving the Canadian people, correct? Like when journalists aren't allowed to question people in power, we should have some concern.
Were there any other mainstream journalists? And if so, were they allowed in?
Yes, we did see all the CTV News vehicle. They were allowed in, and I was looking around as I was in the room. I saw the Post and, of course, all the pre-approved media.
Well, that's even odder. It was an event open to the media, but just not independent media, citizen journalists, or dare I say, conservative-leaning journalists. That's really creepy, and I think it proves that Mark Carney was lying to me last year when he said he accepts the fact that if you're in the public domain, you have public questions. I think Mark Carney, in a way, he's not ready for the job. If you are afraid of getting some questions from prickly citizen journalists, if that terrifies you so much that you're willing to sic police on them, you're probably not ready to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin. I mean, if you really lack the ability to, there's nothing you could say, there's nothing I could say to Mark Carney that would be so devastating that it would derail his campaign for prime minister. Maybe we would ask him a tough question, but if it was about Ghislaine Maxwell, I know he has an answer. He would say, oh, we're just acquaintances and we met them once at a public event. Whatever it is, he has an answer. The fact that he declines to give it and declines to have the interaction with you shows a condescension that does not befit a man who would be the servant of all Canadians. If he thinks that he is a VVIP corporate tycoon, former chairman of this billion-dollar asset management company, if that's how he thinks of himself, that he's above you and me, he's not going to work out well as a prime minister, which is actually a servant's job, not a master's job. Last word to you, Angelica.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And he also just can't seem to address the actual fact that he lied to Canadians. This shows no integrity and no ownership. So when he messes up, if he becomes prime minister, how is he going to respond to that? Is he going to continue to lie, mislead Canadians? How can we trust somebody like that? Additionally, just the fact that he actually moved that company from Canada into the United States, that means job loss for Canadians. So what kind of a prime minister are we going to have if he is moving Canadian jobs into the United States?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is he did it after Donald Trump became president. When Donald Trump said, I want that border fixed or I'm going to put tariffs on you, that is when Mark Carney, it was just a few weeks ago that he did that. It's just astonishing. Well, thanks for going there. And very frustrating that our politicians continue to be afraid of independent journalists, but in a way, that's a kind of praise. The fact that they're not afraid of the CBC or other journalists says more about the CBC and other journalists than it does about us. Thanks for your time, Angelica.
Absolutely.
All right, there you have it. Stay with us. More ahead. Okay. Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.